Hello and welcome to this week's Granny's Garden. Now this week I'm going to be giving a head start or a kick start to this new rose border. Now approximately about 2 months ago I started on the rose fountain, the centerpiece of this new area. I'm just going to give you a quick update now to show you how it's getting along. Now when I planted it, it was about yay high, and I've started to train it in a spiral around the dead tree trunk, and if you can see I keep on training it and it's already broken the top. And if you can see this little tendril, it has already started to cascade down. Quite amazing considering it was planted only 2 months ago. Now this is a Lady Banks rose, the Alba version, which is the white version. It is thornless or practically completely thornless. You might find the odd ones just don't say, oh, she said it was thornless. It's virtually thornless, as you can see. The other important factor is that it is very flexible. They've got these very, very whip-like stems, which makes it a perfect candidate to be trained in a spiral up the dead tree trunks and then flop outwards or cascade downward, which is the Giza part and the fountain part of my rose fountain. Now, another important thing is with the Alba, with the Lady Banks rose, the whips can grow anywhere between 20 to 30 feet long. So plenty of room to go all the way up and plenty of room to go all the way down. And because they're thornless, if you do brush past them, you're not going to take your eye out. Now, I'm not expecting miracles, it's only a wee little baby. So next year I'm expecting a certain amount, but the following year I'm expecting an explosion. I'm going to keep training this so you won't be able to see the tree trunk below it. It's going to be covered in a mass of intertwining vines. And then of course the cascade is going to get ever more bigger and beautiful. And I'm going to be very, very careful as well with the pruning to keep younger, whip-like, flexible movement in that cascade, which is what I'm looking for. But I will be able to take you on that journey as I go along with it over the years. For the moment it's doing really, really well, and I really couldn't be more happy. As it is at the moment, if I follow it up with the camera, probably the angle is wrong here, let's get over to one side. Right, you can see it there. It opens into a V-like structure, and my only worry is that when I train it up, that it's going to be like an open cascade, cascading on two sides and not in the centre. So I was thinking about it last night, and I have downstairs this 18-inch wreath form, which I use, well, I've got a packet of 5 and I really only use 3 for my Christmas garland on the door. And I said, if I could somehow secure this on the top part, and then as the whips get up as far as here, instead of training it up to the Y part, just let them go loose and then just let them hang over here. Then I'd be able to put it all the way around in a circle and I might get a nicer fountain shape. So at the end of this video, if I've got time, I may sort of like scurry up a ladder. We all know I'm afraid of heights. So we'll just crawl up as best we can and try to secure it with wires and put those first few whips through and see what it looks like. If it works, it works, and if it doesn't, well, it doesn't. No harm done. So this border, which presently starts with the manuka or the New Zealand tea tree or shrub, past the rose fountain, past the Crape Myrtle, and these 2 roses here, and it ends there. Now the idea is to have 6 rose bushes in total. Now these 2 rose bushes at the end are very similar in colour. They're very, very like reddish colour. But this used to be full of a Mediterranean myrtle. And once you take the bushes out, everything sort of looks haywire. So basically I need to move both of these rose shrubs. Is the beginning of September the best month? Probably no, you should wait until they're more dormant. But beggars can't be choosers, as I've said many, many a time. But there is ways to be successful in rose transplants. One of the most important things when you're transplanting roses at any time of the year, but especially when they're not dormant, is to be ready. Everything goes in sequence and everything has to be ready. The next step has to be ready before you finish the first step. So think forward and get ready. And number 1 is sharpen your tools. You can't hack at a rose, and especially you can't hack at the roots of the rose. It's got to be clean cut, so your tools have got to be sharp. Now, those of you who've seen me before know I have a little gadget. And that little gadget is to make life easier for me. The reason is that when I use a stone, a normal stone, I am incapable of maintaining the same angle. I'm an absolute disaster. So this little gadget has got one flat side and the stone part is at a 45-degree angle, which is exactly the angle I need on the bevel side of my tools. This has got a flat part and it's got the cutting part, and all I do is put the flat part against the black, which is the flat, all the way around. Maybe I want to put my glasses on so we can see what I'm doing. Much better. Okay, so your cutting edge, bevel part, flat part. So you'd put the flat against the black, and that would slot in there, and you just go up and down the actual cutting part. Dead simple, dead easy, especially for people like me. I'm also going to be doing the exact same thing on the loppers because I'm bound to meet thicker roots, and I'm also going to be doing it on my shovel because my shovel is a spear-headed shovel, especially made for cutting through minor roots when you're actually transplanting. And this is a shovel with a beveled edge as well. So I just want to get that part nice and sharp so that if I do meet smaller roots, it can slice straight through them cleanly, not hacked at, cleanly. So let's get started on this. Right, the cutting part is here, so I just want to flip it over so I can turn this upside down and get the flat against the flat like that. Right, just make sure it's working properly. Hold it with your hand, and in you go. Up and down, up and down, up and down. Very nice. Now this is the shovel, the spearhead shovel. If I turn it around here, you can see the bevel there on the edge. So I just want to flick it over now and go from here, round here and round here and sharpen it. Now the next thing I need to get ready are the actual holes where the transplant is going to take place. Before I even think about digging up this, I have to have where it's going ready and waiting. The important thing is to remember how big this is going to be when it's at mature size. If I plant it here, it's going to open as far as here and open as far as here, but it's not going to invade the path beside it because obviously you don't want to catch your clothes or catch your bags or whatever when you're going by. So this is the perfect spot, and this is where I'm going to make my hole. Don't worry about all these little violas. I'm going to transplant those. Those are self-seeded and they're growing all over the place. No problem. So first things first, make a hole. And it has to be deep enough and wide enough to get beautiful roots spread out and not all scrushed together. Now the next thing you would do would go in and have a look to see if there's any diseased or damaged branches. In this case there isn't because I tend to keep fairly on top of it all throughout the growing season. So what I need to do now is reduce in height, because actually I have seen some videos where the people move this huge mammoth structure first and then cut it. What sense is there in that? Why poke your eye out with a thorny branch if you can avoid it? So first of all we're going to reduce it, and then when it's at a more manageable size, then we're going to pop it in the hole. Makes sense, doesn't it? Now remember, before I start this next phase, I have got my hole ready, and in the wheelbarrow there behind I've got compost and I've got enriched soil, and somewhere in the bag, I think there at the beginning, I've got some planter fertilizer. So everything is ready. So next phase. Right, well I've taken this down about 60%. I'm not going to take it down any further because I do live in the mountains. We get very, very hard winters. And now the recording date is the 6th of September. So I've got about 8 weeks until the first really hard frost hits. At the end of October we're getting light frost, but from the 7th of November onwards we can get quite heavy frosts. So it's got time to harden off and even put on a bit of growth and even start establishing a new root system, which is absolutely great. But always at the end of winter I have a certain amount of frost damage or cold damage, so I need some room to be able to take it down even further so it has this lush spurt at the beginning of spring. So let's get transplanting. And I've got my spade, my loppers and my secateurs at hand, really, really sharp, because we don't want to hack at the roots. You've got to cause the least amount of trauma possible to this beautiful little plant, and the way to do it is clean cuts, nice clean cuts. So let's start. And we're going to start first of all making a hole about so high, and we've got to be careful of this because there is an irrigation system here, so I'm probably going to leave the side alone and I'm going to work from here around to there and then try and maneuver it or lever it and see if we can do it without damaging the watering system. Oh gosh. Hopefully you'll be able to see this, where the spade is. I just want to lift it there a bit. Now you can see there are some roots here. This one in particular, I've got two here beside each other that need to go. So I'm going to cut it as far away as possible. So right down here. Right, let's see if there's any more. Get the spade under there now. Gosh, this is thorny. Now I've actually got a root right where the irrigation system is, which is a bit of a pain. Now I've probably got a root here because as I move it, you can see that I'm sort of moving the irrigation system. So I'm going to just try and uncover this, if I can, and find that wretched root. These are only tiny little roots, little feather roots, so that's not my problem. I'm looking for the big one. Where is the big baby that's holding this down? Right, it's here, and it is a big one. So I'm going to need to get my loppers in here, if I can. Gosh, that's far down. Ugh. Now, I don't know if you can see that, but this is the root in question. I just want to see if I can get my loppers around it somehow and see if I can open it up. Right, I think I've got my loppers around it, and I just need to... this is the great thing about having sharp tools. There you go. So I'm just going to lift it very gently. Here we go. Oh, there we are. Just want to get the feather roots out as well, and some of these other little auxiliary ones. Right, now let's get this baby into its hole. Now I've just mixed in some compost with some nice enriched soil, and what I'm going to do now is to sprinkle some starting fertilizer over it, some rooting fertilizer, and now let's get this baby into its dog box. Now what I'm going to do is just pop her in the hole like that and spread out her roots. Pull out some freesia bulbs that have got bigger and bigger every year, and they're now invading the rows, so good time to deal with that as well. Just going to dig down a bit deeper now to let that root go down. More bulbs, and we're going to start filling in, especially underneath. We don't want any air pockets underneath there. So what I'm going to do is get the trug of soil that I had before. And the next extremely important thing is water it. So I'm going to get that done right now. Well, that's this one transplanted. Now what I do with as regarding water is 2 days beforehand to give it a really good soak. So the day before, yesterday, I came around with a slow hose and absolutely saturated it. Yesterday I did absolutely nothing, and today even less. If you water it too close to the time for transplanting, you lift it up and you end up with bare roots because all the soil falls off, and I didn't want that. So 2 days beforehand, really good soak. The day you're transplanting, nothing, but once it's transplanted, then you get in there with your water. Give it a really good soak and keep that up for several weeks, especially if the temperature is still hot. So what I need to do now, I've still got to do another transplant, another rose transplant. I've got to get the Manuka or the New Zealand tree shrub from one side of the garden to the other. Then I need to get little flags and put the spacing of where my new shrubs are going to go, my new rose shrubs, which I ordered last night. And I'm going to tell you later on what they are. Absolutely fabulous. Planter fertilizer. Now let's feed the roots in here. She's got quite nice feathery roots, no taproot, so just going to get her in here gently. There we go. And I want to see which way to face her. Let's have a look. Oh, that's right, we're going to face her this way. She looks lovely. My way. Don't know about the camera side, but my way she looks lovely. So I'm just going to tuck the little roots in there so they don't dry out. I'm going to get some native soil first, and then I'm going to put a little bit of extra special. Now this is a nice root, so I want to get that root just in there, nicely down, and we'll cover it with some extra special. There we go. You know, I actually love this tree, apart from the fact that it's evergreen all year round, and I love the colour of the little tiny little leaves. The colour of the flowers, which is like an intense pink, a really dark pink with an even darker pink centre. I absolutely love it. And the foliage as well, when it comes out, is a dark colour. It sort of levels out or ages to green, but when it comes out in the beginning of spring, it's absolutely lovely. And it does very well in our climate. It's supposed to be frost sensitive, but it went through Philomena, which was our blizzard. It went through the Arctic blast with not a blink. So everything is relative. That's why I always say, if you really like something, try it out. And try it out in several locations, because there might be a little microclimate in your garden. I'm protected here with the fence. I've got the olive tree overhead. Nice and protected, so it can probably go several zones lower than they actually put on the label. And that way you can have the tree you wanted without any problems. Now, in my last video, I actually got asked about this shovel. As you've seen, it makes such light work of any sort of transplanting. It's a spear-headed shovel. As I said, it's got a cutting edge on it, which you have to keep sharp. But it literally slices through the normal roots. I mean, you are going to need lopping shear for the heavier roots. And it's going to show you here, it's got a label on it. The spearhead spade, when regular shovels just won't do. And that's spearheadspade.com. Absolutely fantastic tool. Could not be without it. And also, it's lightweight, which is important for me. It's got a good thick wide part here to be able to shove your boot into it. Now I'm going to stop the transplant of the second rows right now. As I was digging the hole, I've hit this. Now when we bought this house 3 years ago, we have no idea where the electrovalves are that actually work the watering system or the irrigation system. This might be it. So I'm going to stop it now. When my husband gets home this afternoon, we're going to have a look at it, dig it out and have a look at it and see what's underneath it. But it's definitely something got to do with the garden, and from what I can see, it goes here, here, here and here, so it's quite big. So we're going to just have a look to see what's inside. For the moment, what I am going to do is map out and that with the little flags where my new roses are going to go. So, regarding this new shrub border, apart from the central rose fountain and the 2 roses I've transplanted, well, the second I'll be transplanting this evening when we find out what's in that magic box, I got 4 new ones, so they're on order and they're going to arrive as bare roots in the month of November. Now the first one is Pat Austin. Now Pat Austin, the thing I like about it, it's a 3-foot, everyone I've selected are repeat flowers and they go from between 3 foot and 4 foot high. Now Pat Austin is a beautiful unusual colour. It's copper, and as it ages the outer petals go to a yellowy copper. Absolutely gorgeous. Now the next one is Leonardo Da Vinci. Quite a well-known one. Again, it's about the 3 foot or slightly higher. But what I like about it, it is pink, but as it ages, it changes colour. And because it's got so many flowers, you've got several stages on the bush at the same time. So it looks as if you've got a rose with different coloured roses on it. It's absolutely delightful. Now the next one is Dolce Vita. Dolce Vita is slightly higher. It's about the 4 foot range. Again, absolutely lovely colour. It's an apricot colour. Again, changing as it ages. And the last one, the 4th one, is Boscobel, which again is about the 4 foot range, and again is pink. It's like a coral pink, absolutely gorgeous. Probably what I'm going to do is, I've got my central fountain, which is white, then I'm going to have the pink ones, which is the Leonardo Da Vinci and the Boscobel, and then the copper and the apricot ones before I get to the red ones at each extreme end. And I think it's going to look absolutely wonderful. So I'm so looking forward to getting planted. Of course, the zinnias, which are just like annuals, by the time the first frosts come, they'll be gone. So by the time November comes and I'm going to be planting those bare roots, the zinnias are going to be no longer in the border. So I'm going to have a clear line of fire. What I'm going to be doing in the month of September is planting a lot of bulbs. Now I have them on order since last June, and they're going to be arriving within the next week or so. And for this area, it's going to be miniature. Everything is going to be miniature. Miniature daffodils and miniature tulips. Because the tulips, if they're miniature and species tulips, they will be coming back year after year after year. Not like other tulips, you just can't depend on them. They either come back, don't come back, or come back a little bit not the same as they were the previous year. So miniature here to undergrow the roses. And then of course I need to space out. I've got some Columbine growing here, which is absolutely fabulous. I've got 5 of them at the moment, and I'm going to space those out as well. And I've got self-seeded violas, and the violas again I'm going to space out as well. And that way, underplanting the roses, I'm always going to have something. It's either going to be the spring bulbs, or it's going to be columbines, or it's going to be violas. But there's always going to be something going on under there, but nothing too huge that's going to take away the glory of the actual rose shrub itself, or the rose border itself. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've certainly enjoyed baking it, although I'm absolutely filthy, and I hope I haven't got it on my face. And I'm going to be seeing you here again next week in Granny's garden. Bye-bye now. And now, as promised, I'm going to try and get out the big ladder, try and get up on top of that tree and see if I can put that wreath form on top to be able to splay my little whips of my rose fountain through them. Wish me luck. Right, so because this tree trunk, the dead tree trunk, leans slightly to the left, I've brought the actual wreath form over to the right. And that way, hopefully, when it cascades, it's going to cascade evenly out both sides. That's the idea anyway, we'll soon find out. But at least the first whip is there on the right-hand side, and now with gravity it starts going down, and there's just a little tiny teensy-weensy one is on the left-hand side as well. Little by little, it's going to be more and more and more coming up through that centre hole and then cascading out. So we'll see what happens next year. Bye now, see you next week.